I don't know if I'm going to post this or not, only because CNN doesn't get any type of a guest from the White House, so I tend to pay a bit more attention to their roundtable. So I may not make a lot of comments. I may just post this as a point of information.
And he can't do his job because of his race. Is that not the definition of racism?
No, I don't think so at all. He's a Mexican. We're building a wall between here and Mexico.
But he's not from Mexico. He's from Indiana. That was President Trump last year attacking a different judge, the one who ruled against him in the Trump University case. This weekend he took aim at the judge who reversed the travel ban, calling him a so-called judge and that the ruling was ridiculous and would, quote, open our country to potential terrorists. With me now to talk about this and much more, Neera Tanden, President and CEO of the Center for American Progress. Congressman Jason Lewis, Republican of Minnesota, making his debut appearance here. Thanks for being here. CNN political commentator Bakari Sellers and Sarah Isker Flores, spokeswoman for Attorney General nominee Jeff Sessions. Congressman, let me start with you. Senator Chuck Schumer, the Democratic leader, says Trump's attack on Judge Robart in Seattle will become an issue when the Senate considers Neil Gorsuch for the Supreme Court. He issued a statement saying, quote, "With each action testing the Constitution and each personal attack on a judge, President Trump raises the bar even higher for Judge Gorsuch's nomination to serve on the Supreme Court. His ability to be an independent check will be front and center throughout the confirmation process." This does put Judge Gorsuch, his qualifications aside, in a tough position because he's going to be asked to condemn what President Trump said about Judge Robart.
Jake, we all want an independent judiciary, but you go back to Thomas Jefferson, you go back to the beginning of the Republic, and there was criticism of the court. Jefferson didn't like judicial review. Andrew Jackson famously said, well, the court's made its decision, now let's see him enforce it. You've got FDR, who when they were striking down the New Deal, threatened to pack the Supreme Court. And you had a recent president that hauled the Supreme Court in front of the House chamber and then derided them over a recent decision. So I don't think anybody's got a monopoly on virtue on criticizing the judiciary here.
You know, I think the difference is that Republicans, Democrats can obviously criticize what the court does, but attacking a judge and attacking him as a so-called judge really threatens the independence of the judiciary, which, oddly enough, conservatives throughout history, conservatives recently had attacked FDR for what he did against the judiciary, attacked people for this precise action. And I think the challenge here is, and I applaud what Mitch McConnell did here, which is to actually defend an independent judiciary. And the problem here for President Trump is that he has now made it much more difficult to get his confirmation through from his own words.
We all want an independent judiciary, but threatening to pack the court, attacking the Supreme Court justices, putting them in the well of the House, and then upbraiding them. I'm sorry, is that threatening the independence of the judiciary?
No, it is not, because all President Obama did, I think you're referencing President Obama, is he criticized Citizens United, which anyone can criticize, but you should not attack the judiciary.
I think that the American public deserve for you and the rest of the elected officials and members of this august body, the Congress and the Senate, to stand up when Donald Trump does something wrong. And if you say that throughout history that something has been done wrong to judges and the judiciary, then so be it. I'll grant you that. But you also need to be able to sit here and say that what Donald Trump said about Judge Curiel, what Donald Trump said about this judge in Washington State was wrong. And it does threaten the independent judiciary. Look, I wasn't around when FDR was criticizing judges.
I don't think the congressman was.
I don't know if you were there.
I was actually a lot of fun before electricity.
But I will tell you that what we're looking for is not just yourself, but Speaker Ryan and Mitch McConnell and everyone to stand up and say, look, Donald Trump, although I'm a Republican, although I'm a conservative and I support you, what you're saying is wrong. And to sit here and just throw it back at history, I think is disingenuous to the American public.
Jake, let's step aside from this, and nothing brings out hypocrisy like a judicial confirmation hearing. But the politics of this are pretty easy. There are 10 Trump state Democrats who Trump won their state. They are now going to have to decide whether their voters, and 1 out of 5 voters in the country said they voted because of the Supreme Court. 57% of those voted for Donald Trump. So Supreme Court voters are mostly Trump voters. And for those Trump state Democrats up for re-election, they have to know that most of their constituents wanted Donald Trump to pick the next Supreme Court nominee. And then you have Democrats in disarray in their own chamber, within their own caucus, saying on the one hand, Judge Gorsuch is going to be too cynical when it comes to administrative and agency authority, but on the other hand, we're worried he won't be an independent check against Trump. They haven't really coalesced around a single message because Judge Gorsuch is so incredibly
Can I just say here, look, I think you had it actually in your poll. Democrats really believe that what happened here was a travesty. That
With Judge Garland.
With Judge Garland, with the way he was treated was a travesty. And I think the irony,
rule.
not the Biden rule, the rule in which a person gets a hearing, etc. And so I think the issue here is Democrats are looking at this nominee and they want Democrats to actually test this out. And I think the interesting thing that happened this morning was Mitch McConnell saying he's not going to go nuclear with this, which is an important issue.
Well, I don't know that I don't think he ruled it out.
He didn't rule it out, but he said he needs 60 votes, not 50, which is an indication he's not going to do the nuclear rule. And I think the challenge here is that everything Donald Trump does makes this more difficult, not easier, and is actually in making more Democrats stand up. And to the issue of the states, Democrats, the public in those states want an independent check on Donald Trump. His popularity is the worst of anyone. He does not. He's not even a majority.
And
look, Judge Gorsuch.
Y'all are saying so.
Judge Gorsuch has the lowest approval ratings of anyone ever. So if you're thinking about in political terms,
as Mitch McConnell was listing off to you his litany of historical facts and reasons of why they were just obstructionists when it came to Judge Garland. One of the things he forgot to mention is now Judge Garland, he serves as the person who was the longest vacancy in the history of the Supreme Court since his nomination. And so we do believe that was really unfair to Barack Obama. But now that we're here, what you're seeing is Democrats, even in those states that you were talking about, are coalescing around this resistance. And I believe, like they believe, that he deserves to get a hearing, he deserves to get heard, he deserves to have these things, but it needs to be 60 votes in vote.
But coalescing around Gorsuch, I mean, the night
no one's coalescing around Gorsuch.
We're coalescing around resistance.
No, let me just say, to point out the hypocrisy. The night of the nomination, there was a sign on the Supreme Court steps that said "oppose" by ostensibly your side. It was blank.
Yeah, they wrote it
The
down.
protesters were waiting until the nominee was announced to write it.
Let's take
That's called obstructionism.
Nobody go
It's called
anywhere.
obstructionism.
Nobody go anywhere. We're going to come right back.
Great lessons on obstruction.
We're going to come right back. More. That was the scene outside a town hall hosted by a Republican congressman in California yesterday. The overflow crowd demanding Representative Tom McClintock come out and meet with them. The congressman had to be escorted out of the venue by police. So the voices opposed to President Trump's agenda are increasingly loud, but are they making an impact? Let's continue to talk to our panel. You will be holding a town hall presumably soon. If there are protests like that from Minnesotans, will it matter to you?
Well, of course it matters. You listen to everybody. It's important. But the governor says the Affordable Care Act is no longer affordable.
Governor of Minnesota.
Governor Mark Dayton, a Democrat. The Commerce Commission says the Obamacare has brought an emergency situation to the individual market. Premiums in Minnesota went up 67% this year, 55% last year. The state just passed emergency legislation to subsidize residents' premiums in Minnesota by $310 million. That does not sound like a plan that's really working too well.
You know what's fascinating is that Republicans, led by Marco Rubio, did things to destroy the insurance pools like reinsurance, etc. Now they're talking about reinstating that to pay off the insurance companies. I think what you're seeing out there in the public is that the fact that there's no answer, that they want to do repeal and replace 3 years later. What is your plan right now, Congressman, to actually save or actually make sure people have the same amount of coverage as they did before, which is what Donald Trump promised?
Minnesota had one of the best insurance pools, high-risk pools in the country.
Which failed in most states.
I'm talking about Minnesota. That's why I represent my district. And it was undone by the ACA.
It was not.
Yes, it was undone. It was undone, replaced by something called MNsure, which has been a total debacle. What we're going to do is allow people to buy the health care plan they want instead of the plan you think they
want. So what he's saying is that he doesn't have a plan, because what's happening here is that what we have is congressman after congressman after congressman, senator after senator. They've railed for 7.5 years using rhetoric, and people literally their lives are being saved.
That's why
families are being able to now live when they have they're not going bankrupt when they have a catastrophic injury. And congresspersons are coming on TV, Fox News, CNN, everywhere else, and they're giving you these talking points. And what happened to Representative McClintock yesterday? Senator Cassidy, he's failed to show up for 2 town halls. People are just sick and tired.
I'd like to keep the topic on the discussion, because we're going to have a whole town hall on Obamacare on Tuesday.
I'm going to tune into that.
What I'd like to do is talk about these protests,
Sure.
if possible.
Democrats have been in their own echo chamber for the last 8 years, convinced that the American people are with them on any number of issues. Now that Donald Trump has been elected, they simply will not accept his election. And yet, over the last 8 years, this is why Barack Obama lost over 1,000 Democratic seats. The Democratic bench has been wiped out.
State legislative seats.
State legislative seats, governor seats, Senate seats. They are down on every category. It's why they are down. Forgot the House. It's why they're down to 5 states are under Democratic control. That's it. 25 are under full Republican control. And so the inability to accept Donald Trump's election is continuing.
Let me give you one red light. There are many of us who will not. We accept Donald Trump's election, but we will not accept Donald Trump.
He would be for puppies, and you would be against him.
No, because he would probably kick the puppies. I refuse to normalize what Donald Trump represents. But what we'll say is what you're seeing, what your boss is seeing in Senator Sessions, what we're seeing with Betsy DeVos, what we're seeing with McClintock running, and he had enough police that we thought he was Lady Gaga.
It's a Republican district. Trump won.
What we're seeing is this resistance. And look, this is democracy. Either you embrace it or you get out the way.
I have all the confirmations from George Washington to Barack Obama of what were outstanding by this point in their presidency. Add them all up. And Donald Trump has more because Democrats refuse to confirm.
But hold on. This is very rich. The hypocrisy is getting really thick around the table because what we did see was when Barack Obama was trying to get his EPA secretary sworn in, Republicans didn't show up. What we did see, they literally boycotted the meeting. This is nothing.
But I believe at this point during the Obama administration, all but one cabinet nominee was confirmed.
They were also vetted.
They were also vetted by the FDA. Also, he does not put forward
50,000 pages. What more do you need to know?
I need to know a lot about Jeff Sessions, but that's another
He's answered every
story.
question. Over 700 questions, 150,000 pages. There are a lot of vulnerable Americans. There are a lot of Hispanics, African Americans, LGBT
community. Yes, there is vetting because we have a lot of questions to ask to make sure that the Attorney General is going to be independent. The fact of the matter is, I have a huge problem with someone who called the Voting Rights Act an intrusive piece of legislation.
Just a week ago, Donald Trump fired a member of the Justice Department for standing up
Obama's Justice. Obama holdover.
Yes, but fired that person for saying that the Muslim ban is unconstitutional, which was found yesterday.
Wait a minute. First of all, why do you keep calling it a Muslim ban?
Because it is.
There are 203 million Muslims in Indonesia where this doesn't affect.
Because it affects 12% of Muslims throughout the world. That's simply like saying that it's not slavery because it was only in the southern states.
So it's not a complete Muslim ban.
It doesn't matter. It's a Muslim ban.
It's an incomplete Muslim ban. Thank you. We agree. It's an
We're
incomplete
making
Muslim ban.
progress with some of the democracy going on.
Can I just point out that what we learned over this weekend is that a judge throughout this entire order, right, and into the entire order, importantly because they found it was an abrogation, the president does not have this power. The president chose to rush Trump
throw it out.
The Ninth Circuit is going to hear arguments from both sides.
It was the Ninth Circuit last night agreed with the temporary ban, with the temporary restraining order. The reality here is that Trump rushed through an order. He had very little consultation, and we've been dealing with the results of this.
And the Boston judge affirmed it. And Boston judge affirmed it. So let's look. I agree with you. Let's let the court. I agree. Let's let the courts decide this, and then you will support the final decision.
To be continued because it's still proceeding through the judicial branch, which we respect. All everybody at this table respects the judicial branch. Thanks, one and all. Great roundtable.
All right. Anyway, I got to tell you, I kind of really enjoy the lively exchanges that the four-person, two on one side, two on the other side have. And CNN's had some pretty good ones over the last couple of weeks.